The warm Texas sun poured over the lively streets of Austin, stretching shadows across the pavement. In this energetic city, where dreams took shape and fortunes were built, two lives were on the verge of intersecting in a way that would alter their futures forever. One was a man who appeared to have everything, yet carried a burden of grief that threatened to overwhelm him. The other, a young woman armed only with her courage and determination, fighting daily just to get by. Neither could have guessed that their chance meeting would set off a series of events that would redefine the meaning of family and show that the most valuable gifts often come from the most unexpected places. Ethan Carter stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, his eyes fixed on the Austin skyline, though his thoughts were miles away. At 42, he was the picture of success. Founder and CEO of a thriving tech company, with a fortune that placed him among the city's elite. His tailored suit and polished demeanor suggested a man who had it all together, but those close to him could see the shadows lurking in his deep blue eyes. 5 years earlier, Ethan's world had shattered when his beloved wife, Claire, lost her battle with cancer. Her absence still left a constant ache in his chest, a void that nothing seemed to fill. Claire had been his anchor, his partner in every sense. Together, they had built their life, climbing the ladder of success side by side, their love growing stronger with each passing year. Now, Ethan found himself navigating the turbulent waters of single parenthood, striving to be both mother and father to their daughter, Lily. It was a role he wrestled with daily, haunted by the fear of failing Claire's memory and Lily's future. As he turned from the window, his gaze fell on the framed photo on his desk, a candid shot of Claire holding a toddler Lily, both laughing at something off-camera. The sight brought a bittersweet smile to his face. He picked up the frame, running his thumb over Claire's radiant face. Setting it down, Ethan straightened his tie and checked his watch. It was time to leave the office and pick up Lily from her after-school art class. As he gathered his things, his thoughts drifted to his daughter, the light of his life. Lily Carter was a lively 7-year-old with her mother's warm blue eyes and her father's infectious grin. Despite losing her mother at such a young age, Lily remained a beacon of innocence in Ethan's life. Her laughter filled their spacious home, a sound that both healed and pained Ethan's heart, reminding him of the joy they had shared and the loss they now endured. With her dark curls bouncing and her backpack swinging, Lily would greet Ethan each day with boundless enthusiasm, sharing tales of her adventures at school. Her resilience amazed him. While she missed her mother, she had an uncanny ability to find wonder in the world around her. "Daddy, did you know that butterflies taste with their feet?" she'd exclaim, her eyes wide with excitement as she shared the latest facts she'd learned. Ethan cherished these moments, marveling at his daughter's curiosity and zest for life. Yet, in the quiet moments when Lily would ask about her mother or why other kids had two parents, Ethan felt the weight of his inadequacy. He tried his best to fill the void, but he knew that a father's love, no matter how deep, couldn't entirely replace a mother's. As Ethan drove through the bustling streets of Austin to pick up Lily, his thoughts turned to the other central figure in this unfolding story, though he didn't know it yet. Emma, an 18-year-old orphan, was finishing her shift at the car wash on the outskirts of town. Her hands were raw from the harsh chemicals and constant exposure to water, but she barely noticed the discomfort anymore. This job, meager as it was her lifeline, the only thing standing between her and complete destitution. With no family to speak of and a childhood spent bouncing between foster homes, Emma had learned early on that survival depended on her own grit and determination. Her long, dark hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her clothes, though clean, showed signs of wear. But it was her eyes that truly told her story, a deep, piercing green that held a mixture of weariness and unwavering resolve. As she wiped down the last car of her shift, Emma allowed herself a moment to dream. She imagined a life beyond the daily struggle, a life where she didn't have to count every penny or wonder where her next meal would come from. But she quickly shook off these thoughts. Dreams were a luxury she couldn't afford. Emma nodded, gathering her few belongings. As she walked toward the bus stop, her mind was already calculating. She had enough for this month's rent, but food would be tight. Maybe she could pick up an extra shift at the diner, where she worked weekends. Lost in thought, she didn't notice the sleek black car that pulled into the parking lot just as she was leaving, nor did she see the man inside. His face etched with worry as he spoke urgently on his phone. Little did Ethan and Emma know that their paths were about to cross in a way that would alter the course of both their lives forever. The stage was set for a challenge that would test their perceptions, push their courage, and ultimately redefine the meaning of family for them all. The sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the Austin sky in shades of orange and purple. Ethan Carter sat in his parked car on a quiet side street, his fingers drumming nervously on the steering wheel. He'd just received an alarming call from his company's legal team about a potential lawsuit that could threaten everything he'd built. His mind raced with potential solutions, barely registering the deepening shadows around him. Unbeknownst to Ethan, two figures lurked in the nearby alley, their eyes fixed on the expensive car and its distracted occupant. They exchanged a silent nod before emerging from the darkness, their intentions clear. The first blow caught Ethan completely off guard. A fist smashed through the driver's side window, showering him with glass. Before he could react, rough hands grabbed his collar, yanking him halfway out of the car. "Give us your wallet and the watch, rich boy," a gruff voice demanded, the threat clear in every syllable. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest, fear and adrenaline coursing through his veins. He fumbled for his wallet, his usually steady hands shaking uncontrollably. "Take it," he gasped. "Just don't hurt me." The second attacker circled the car, ripping open the passenger door to search for valuables. Ethan closed his eyes, silently praying for it to be over quickly. Suddenly, a sharp cry pierced the air, followed by the sound of something heavy hitting the ground. Ethan's eyes flew open to see one of the attackers clutching his head and writhing in pain. "What the—" The other robber started, but was cut short as another projectile whizzed past, narrowly missing his ear. From the shadows emerged a figure Ethan hadn't noticed before, a young woman with fierce determination etched on her face. She stood her ground, another stone ready in her hand. "Get away from him," she shouted, her voice unwavering despite the danger. The standing robber hesitated, clearly caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events. His partner struggled to his feet, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. "This ain't worth it," the injured one muttered, tugging at his accomplice's sleeve. "Let's go." With one last venomous glare at Ethan and his mysterious savior, the would-be robbers fled into the night, leaving behind a scene of shattered glass and frayed nerves. Ethan slumped back into his seat, his breath coming in sharp gasps as the reality of what had just happened washed over him. He turned to look at the young woman, no more than 18 or 19, with long dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her clothes were worn but clean, and her stance spoke of someone used to defending herself. But it was her eyes that captured Ethan's attention, a vibrant green that seemed to glow with an inner fire. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice softened now that the danger had passed. Ethan nodded, still too shaken to speak. He took a deep breath, trying to gather his thoughts. "You saved me," he finally managed. "Why, you could have been hurt." The young woman shrugged, a hint of a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Couldn't just stand by and watch, could I? Besides, I've got a pretty good arm." Ethan couldn't help but chuckle at that, the tension of the moment breaking. "I'm Ethan," he said, extending his hand through the broken window. "Ethan Carter. And you are?" "Emma," she replied, grasping his hand briefly. "No last name, just Emma." As Ethan looked at Emma, a strange feeling washed over him. In this young woman's brave act, he saw a glimmer of the strength and compassion that had drawn him to Claire all those years ago. It was a quality he hadn't realized he'd missed until this moment. "Emma," he repeated, "I owe you a debt of gratitude. Would you let me buy you a cup of coffee? It's the least I can do to thank you properly." Emma hesitated, her instincts honed by years on her own warring with the genuine gratitude she saw in Ethan's eyes. After a moment, she nodded. All right, but just coffee. I know a place around the corner that's still open. As they walked together toward the cafe, neither Ethan nor Emma could have predicted how this chance encounter would change both their lives forever. It was a moment that would reshape their understanding of family, trust, and the unexpected ways love can enter our lives. In the days to come, as this story unfolds with twists and turns that will keep you on the edge of your seat, you'll want to stay tuned for every chapter. Don't miss a single moment of this heartwarming tale. Make sure to follow along and join us on this incredible journey. After all, the best stories are the ones we share together. The small cafe was a stark contrast to the upscale establishments Ethan usually frequented. The worn leather booths and slightly sticky tables spoke of a place well loved by its regulars, where coffee was served strong and judgments were left at the door. As Ethan and Emma settled into a quiet corner, the late-night crowd barely gave them a second glance. Ethan couldn't help but notice how Emma's eyes darted around the room, taking in every detail, every potential exit. It was the look of someone who had learned to be constantly on guard. When the waitress approached, Emma ordered a simple black coffee, while Ethan opted for an espresso. "So, Emma," Ethan began, his voice soft and curious, "tell me about yourself. What brought you to that street tonight?" Emma's fingers traced the rim of her coffee mug, her gaze fixed on the swirling black liquid. "I was walking home from work," she said simply. "I work at the car wash a few blocks over." Ethan nodded, sensing her hesitation. "And before that, where's home for you?" A bitter smile flitted across Emma's face. "Home is wherever I can afford rent for the month. Been that way since I aged out of the system last year." The weight of her words hung in the air between them. Ethan felt a pang in his chest, thinking of his own daughter and the life of comfort she knew. "The system?" he prompted gently. Emma's green eyes met his, a challenge in their depths. "Foster care. Been bouncing around since I was 5. Parents died in a car crash. No other family to take me in. So, the state became my parent. Not exactly the fairy tale childhood, but hey, I survived." Ethan leaned back, taking in the young woman before him. Despite the hardship she'd faced, there was a fierce determination in her posture, a strength that spoke of battles fought and won. "And now, what are your plans?" A shrug. "Survive, work, maybe save up enough to take some community college classes someday. But for now, it's just about making it to the next day." As Emma spoke, Ethan felt something shift inside him. He thought of Claire, of the compassion that had been such an integral part of her. He thought of Lily growing up without a mother's guidance. And he thought of this brave young woman who had risked her own safety to help a stranger. "Emma," he said, his decision crystallizing even as he spoke, "I have a proposition for you. It might sound strange, but I ask that you hear me out." Emma's eyebrow arched, a mix of curiosity and wariness in her expression. "I'm listening." Ethan took a deep breath. "I have a daughter, Lily. She's 7, and she lost her mother, my wife, 5 years ago. I've been struggling to balance my work and being there for her. What I'm saying is, I need help. A nanny, someone who can be there for Lily when I can't. Someone brave, someone who cares about others, someone like you." Emma's eyes widened, disbelief written across her features. "Me? A nanny? Mr. Carter, I don't know the first thing about taking care of kids. I'm just trying to take care of myself. But you do know about courage, about facing challenges head-on. You know about resilience, Emma. Those are qualities I want my daughter to learn." Ethan leaned forward, his voice earnest. "I'm offering you a job, a stable income, and a place to live. In return, you help care for Lily, be a friend to her, a guide." Emma sat back, her mind reeling. It seemed too good to be true, a lifeline thrown when she least expected it. But years of disappointment had taught her to be cautious. "Why me? You don't even know me. I could be anyone." Ethan smiled softly. Sometimes, Emma, you have to trust your instincts. Mine are telling me that you're exactly who Lily and I need in our lives right now. A long moment of silence stretched between them, filled with the soft clinking of cups and the low murmur of conversation from other tables. Emma's mind raced, weighing the opportunity against her ingrained skepticism. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Let me think about it. It's a lot to process. Ethan nodded, understanding in his eyes. Of course. Take all the time you need. Here's my card. Call me when you've made a decision. Either way. As they parted ways that night, neither Ethan nor Emma could have predicted the journey they were about to embark on. For Ethan, it was a leap of faith, a chance to bring some light back to his and Lily's life. For Emma, it was a doorway to a world she had never dared to dream of, a chance at stability and perhaps even family. The stars twinkled overhead as Emma walked back to her small, rented room. The weight of Ethan's business card seemed to burn in her pocket, a tangible reminder of the choice that lay before her. As she climbed the creaky stairs to her apartment, her mind swirled with possibilities and fears. Closing the door behind her, Emma leaned against it, sliding down to the floor. She pulled out the card, running her fingers over the embossed letters. Ethan Carter, CO, a world away from her own. What do I do? She whispered to the empty room, her voice trembling with uncertainty and a flicker of hope. As the night deepened, Emma sat there, weighing her options, her past experiences battling with the promise of a new beginning. Little did she know that her decision would not only change her life, but would set in motion a series of events that would redefine the meaning of family. The Carter household was a flurry of activity the morning Emma arrived. Ethan had spent the previous evening explaining the situation to Lily, who bounced between excitement at the prospect of a new friend and confusion about why they needed help. Now, as the doorbell chimed, Lily raced to answer it, her small feet pattering against the hardwood floors. I'll get it, she called out, reaching for the handle. Ethan gently intercepted her, smiling down at his daughter. Let's open it together, shall we? As the door swung open, Emma stood on the threshold, a small duffel bag slung over her shoulder. She looked different from the night of the incident. Her hair was neatly braided, and she wore a simple blouse and jeans, but her eyes still held that mix of weariness and determination that had caught Ethan's attention. Welcome, Ethan greeted warmly, ushering her inside. I'm glad you decided to join us. Emma nodded, a tentative smile on her lips. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Carter. Please call me Ethan, he insisted, then gestured to the little girl half hiding behind his leg. And this is Lily. Lily peeked out, her curiosity overcoming her shyness. Hi, she said softly, her big blue eyes taking in every detail of the newcomer. Emma knelt down, bringing herself to Lily's eye level. Hello, Lily. It's very nice to meet you. I love your unicorn t-shirt. Lily's face lit up, and she stepped out from behind her father. Thank you. Unicorns are my favorite. Do you like unicorns too? As Emma engaged Lily in a conversation about magical creatures, Ethan watched the interaction with a mixture of relief and hope. Maybe this arrangement could work out after all. However, not everyone in the household shared Ethan's optimism. From the kitchen doorway, Margaret, the housekeeper, observed the scene with a furrowed brow. She had been with the Carter family for over a decade, having cared for Lily since she was a baby. To Margaret, this household was more than just a workplace. It was a family she had sworn to protect. As Ethan led Emma on a tour of the house, Margaret quietly followed, her keen eyes missing nothing. She noticed how Emma's gaze lingered on the expensive artwork adorning the walls, how her fingers twitched slightly when they passed the silver cabinet. To Margaret, these were potential signs of trouble. Later that afternoon, as Emma was settling into her room, Margaret knocked on Ethan's study door. Come in, Ethan called out, looking up from his laptop. Margaret entered, her usual warm smile replaced by a look of concern. "Mr. Carter, may I speak with you for a moment?" Ethan nodded, gesturing for her to take a seat. "Of course, Margaret. What's on your mind?" Margaret sat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "It's about the new girl, Emma. Are you sure this is wise? We know nothing about her background, her references. She's a stranger, and you're bringing her into your home, close to Lily." Ethan leaned back in his chair, considering Margaret's words. He understood her concerns. They had crossed his mind as well. But there was something about Emma, a genuineness that he couldn't ignore. "I appreciate your concern, Margaret. I really do. But I have a good feeling about Emma. She saved my life, remember? That has to count for something." Margaret's frown deepened. "A single act of bravery doesn't guarantee character, Mr. Carter. What if she has ulterior motives? What if she's here to take advantage of your kindness?" Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I understand your reservations, Margaret, but I'm asking you to trust my judgment on this. Emma deserves a chance, and I believe she can be good for Lily. However," he added, seeing the worry still etched on Margaret's face, "I value your instincts. Keep an eye on things, and if you notice anything truly concerning, please let me know immediately." Margaret nodded, not entirely satisfied but somewhat reassured. "Very well, Mr. Carter. I'll do as you asked, but please be careful. Lily's well-being is my primary concern." As Margaret left the study, Ethan sat back, lost in thought. He knew he was taking a risk, but something in his gut told him it was the right decision. Still, Margaret's words lingered in his mind, a reminder of the responsibility he bore. Over the next few days, a subtle tension settled over the Carter household. Emma threw herself into her role, eager to prove herself worthy of the opportunity she'd been given. She spent hours playing with Lily, helping her with homework, and even attempting to cook, much to Margaret's dismay when she found the kitchen in disarray. Lily, for her part, was thrilled with her new companion. Emma's youthful energy and willingness to engage in imaginative play were a breath of fresh air for the little girl. Ethan often came home to find them engrossed in elaborate tea parties with stuffed animals, or building pillow forts in the living room. But Margaret remained vigilant, her watchful eyes never straying far from Emma. She noticed how the young woman sometimes stared longingly at family photos, how she flinched when Ethan casually mentioned his business success. To Margaret, these were potential red flags, signs of envy or resentment that could spell trouble. One evening, as Emma was tucking Lily into bed, Margaret overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. "Emma," Lily's sleepy voice drifted to the half-open door. "Are you going to be my new mommy?" There was a pause, and Margaret held her breath, straining to hear Emma's response. "Oh, sweetie," Emma finally said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm not here to replace your mommy. No one could ever do that. I'm here to be your friend and to help take care of you. Your mommy will always be your mommy, even if she's not here with us." Lily yawned. "Okay, but I'm glad you're here, Emma. I like having you around." As Emma quietly left Lily's room, she found herself face to face with Margaret in the hallway. The older woman's expression was unreadable, a mix of surprise and lingering suspicion. "That was kind of you," Margaret said slowly, studying Emma's face, "to say what you did to Lily about her mother." Emma shrugged, a sad smile playing on her lips. "It's the truth. I know what it's like to lose parents. The last thing I'd want is for Lily to think I'm trying to take her mother's place." For the first time since Emma's arrival, Margaret felt a flicker of doubt about her initial judgment. Perhaps there was more to this young woman than she had initially thought. As Emma retreated to her room and Margaret made her final rounds for the night, the atmosphere in the Carter household shifted ever so slightly. The seeds of trust had been planted, but whether they would take root and flourish remained to be seen. The journey ahead for this unconventional family was far from over, with challenges and revelations waiting just around the corner. As the weeks passed, Emma's presence in the Carter household began to feel less like an intrusion and more like a natural part of their daily lives. The initial awkwardness gave way to a comfortable routine, with Emma seamlessly integrating herself into Lily's world. One sunny Saturday morning, Ethan found himself lingering over his coffee at the kitchen table, watching through the window as Emma and Lily played in the backyard. They were engaged in what appeared to be an elaborate game of make-believe, with Lily wielding a stick as a magic wand and Emma dramatically falling under various spells. Ethan couldn't help but smile at the scene. It had been a long time since he'd heard Lily laugh so freely. Her giggles carried on the breeze through the open window. Emma, too, seemed transformed. The guarded young woman he'd met that fateful night was now racing around the yard, her hair flying wild, her face alight with genuine joy. They seemed to be getting along well, Margaret commented, joining Ethan at the window. Her tone was neutral, but Ethan detected a hint of approval in her voice. He nodded, taking another sip of his coffee. Emma's been good for her. For both of us, really. Margaret hummed in agreement, her earlier suspicions gradually giving way to a reluctant appreciation for the young woman's positive influence on Lily. Outside, the game had evolved. Emma was now sitting cross-legged on the grass, showing Lily how to weave a crown of dandelions. The little girl's face was a mask of concentration as she clumsily attempted to mimic Emma's deft fingers. "Look, Daddy," Lily called out, noticing her father at the window. She held up a slightly lopsided flower crown. "Emma taught me how to make a princess crown." Ethan gave her a thumbs up, his heart swelling with affection. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." As he watched, Emma gently corrected Lily's technique, guiding her small hands with patience and encouragement. It was a simple moment, but it struck Ethan profoundly. This was what he'd hoped for when he'd made that impulsive offer to Emma, someone who could be there for Lily in ways he couldn't always manage. The days that followed were filled with similar moments of connection. Emma helped Lily with her reading, sitting for hours as the little girl sounded out words from her favorite storybooks. She introduced Lily to the joys of baking, filling the kitchen with the warm scent of chocolate chip cookies under Margaret's watchful eye. But it wasn't just Lily who was blossoming under Emma's care. Ethan noticed changes in himself as well. The weight of single parenthood that had pressed so heavily on his shoulders began to lighten. He found himself looking forward to coming home from work, eager to hear about Lily's day and the adventures she'd had with Emma. One evening, as Ethan was tucking Lily into bed, his daughter's sleepy voice caught him off guard. "Daddy," she mumbled, clutching her favorite stuffed unicorn. "I'm glad Emma's here. She makes things fun like Mommy used to." Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. He gently stroked Lily's hair, giving himself a moment to compose his thoughts. "I'm glad she's here too, sweetie. But you know Emma isn't trying to replace Mommy, right?" Lily nodded, her eyes drifting closed. "I know, but it's nice to have someone to do girl things with. I think Mommy would like Emma." As Ethan quietly closed Lily's door, he found Emma standing in the hallway, a basket of folded laundry in her arms. The look on her face told him she'd overheard the conversation. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop." Ethan shook his head, offering a reassuring smile. "It's okay. Actually, I'm glad you heard. Lily's right, you know. Claire would have liked you." Emma's eyes widened slightly, a mix of emotions playing across her face. "Thank you. That means a lot." They stood there for a moment, the air between them charged with unspoken feelings. Ethan felt a sudden urge to reach out, to express his gratitude for all she'd done. But before he could act on it, Emma cleared her throat. "I should get this laundry put away," she said, hefting the basket. Ethan nodded, stepping aside to let her pass. As he watched her retreat down the hallway, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them, a new understanding taking root. The next day brought a new adventure. Emma had suggested taking Lily to the local botanical gardens, an idea that the little girl embraced with enthusiasm. As they wandered through the lush displays, Lily's eyes were wide with wonder. "Emma, look at this flower. It looks like a butterfly, she exclaimed, pointing to a delicate orchid. Emma knelt beside her, sharing in her excitement. You're right, that's an orchid. They come in all sorts of amazing shapes and colors. As Lily darted from one display to the next, Emma found herself falling into easy conversation with Ethan. They discussed Lily's progress at school, laughed over her latest attempts at jokes, and shared their favorite parts of the garden. For Ethan, it was a revelation. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt so relaxed, so present in the moment. Emma's presence seemed to anchor him, allowing him to fully enjoy this time with his daughter without the usual undercurrent of stress and worry. As the day wore on and Lily's energy began to flag, they made their way to the garden's small cafe. Over ice cream cones, Lily regaled them with her plans to create her own garden. Can we plant some of those butterfly flowers, Daddy? And roses like the ones Mommy used to love. Ethan nodded, catching Emma's eye over Lily's head. Of course we can, sweetheart. Maybe Emma can help us. She seems to know a lot about flowers. Emma smiled, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. I'd like that. I used to help out in the community garden at one of my foster homes. It was one of the good ones. It was a rare glimpse into Emma's past, and Ethan found himself wanting to know more. But he held back, sensing that Emma would share more when she was ready. As they drove home, Lily dozed in the back seat, clutching a small potted succulent they'd bought her as a souvenir. Ethan glanced at Emma in the passenger seat, noting the contentment on her face as she gazed out at the passing scenery. Thank you for suggesting this, he said quietly, not wanting to wake Lily. It's been a wonderful day. Emma turned to him, her smile soft in the fading light. Thank you for giving me the chance to be part of days like this. In that moment, as the car hummed along the highway and the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant hues, Ethan felt a sense of rightness settle over him. This unconventional family they were building, with all its complexities and uncertainties, felt more like home than anything had in a long time. Little did they know that their newfound harmony would soon be put to the test, as challenges loomed on the horizon, threatening to unravel the delicate bonds they had begun to forge. The day began like any other in the Carter household. Ethan left early for an important business meeting. Lily chatted excitedly about her upcoming school play, and Emma busied herself with the morning routine. Even Margaret seemed more relaxed, humming softly as she prepared breakfast. None of them could have predicted the terrifying turn their lives were about to take. It was mid-afternoon when the first wisps of smoke began to curl under Lily's bedroom door. The little girl, engrossed in her coloring books, didn't notice at first. It was Emma, passing by in the hallway, who caught the acrid scent. "Lily," she called out, a note of urgency in her voice. "Sweetie, are you okay in there?" When no answer came, Emma's heart began to race. She flung open the door and a wall of thick, black smoke billowed out. Through the haze, she could make out Lily's small form, slumped over her desk. "Margaret," Emma screamed, rushing into the room. "Fire! Call 911. With strength born of desperation, Emma scooped Lily into her arms. The little girl stirred weakly, coughing as the smoke filled her lungs. Emma's eyes stung and her throat burned, but her focus remained singular. Get Lily to safety. Margaret appeared at the doorway, her face pale with shock. "The stairs," she gasped. "They're blocked by the fire." Emma's mind raced. They were trapped on the second floor, with flames rapidly consuming the house around them. Her gaze fell on the window, and a crazy, dangerous idea took hold. "The oak tree," she said, her voice hoarse from the smoke. "Its branches nearly touched the window. It's our only chance." Margaret's eyes widened in understanding and fear. "It's too risky. You could fall." Emma shook her head, determination etched on her soot-streaked face. "We don't have a choice. Take Lily. I'll go first and help you both across." Before Margaret could protest further, Emma handed the semi-conscious Lily to her. With shaking hands, she wrenched open the window. The rush of fresh air momentarily cleared her head, but she could hear the roar of the fire growing louder. Emma took a deep breath, steadying herself for what she was about to do. She climbed onto the windowsill, reaching out to grasp the nearest branch. It was farther than she'd thought, and for a heart-stopping moment, she felt herself teeter on the edge. But then her fingers closed around rough bark, and she swung herself onto the branch. It creaked ominously under her weight, but held. Inching her way along, she maneuvered until she was in position to help Margaret and Lily. "Okay," she called back, trying to keep the fear out of her voice. "Hand me Lily first." Margaret, tears streaming down her face, gently passed the little girl through the window. Emma's arms ached as she took Lily's weight, carefully guiding her onto the branch beside her. "Hold on tight, sweetheart," she murmured, wrapping one arm securely around Lily's waist. "We're going on a little adventure, okay?" Lily nodded weakly, her small hands gripping Emma's shirt. "Margaret, your turn," Emma urged, watching anxiously as smoke began to billow out of the window. The older woman hesitated, terror plain on her face, but as a loud crash echoed from inside the house, she steeled herself and climbed out onto the branch. It swayed dangerously under their combined weight, and Emma heard a sickening crack. "We have to move now," she shouted. Inch by agonizing inch, they made their way down the tree. Emma's arms burned with the effort of supporting both herself and Lily. Bark scraped her skin, and she could feel warm blood trickling down her arms, but she didn't dare loosen her grip. As they neared the ground, the wail of sirens filled the air. Neighbors had gathered on the lawn, watching in horror as the Carter home was engulfed in flames. A cheer went up as Emma, Lily, and Margaret finally dropped to the grass. Paramedics rushed forward, oxygen masks at the ready. As they were ushered into waiting ambulances, Emma caught a glimpse of Ethan's car screeching to a halt. He leapt out, his face a mask of terror and disbelief. "Lily! Emma!" he cried out, running toward them. "Daddy!" Lily's weak voice called back, and Ethan's face crumpled with relief. As the ambulance doors closed and they sped toward the hospital, Emma finally allowed the enormity of what had just happened to wash over her. She had saved Lily's life. She had risked everything for this little girl, who had come to mean so much to her. In the chaos of the emergency room, as doctors checked them over and administered oxygen, Emma felt a warm hand grasp hers. She looked up to see Ethan, his eyes brimming with tears. "You saved her," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "You saved my little girl." Emma felt her own eyes fill with tears. "I couldn't let anything happen to her," Emma whispered, "to either of you." In that moment, as machines beeped around them and the acrid smell of smoke still clung to their clothes, something profound shifted between Ethan and Emma. The gratitude in his eyes spoke of more than just thanks for a brave act. It hinted at a deeper connection, a recognition of the bond that had formed between them all. As the doctors continued their examinations and the reality of what they had lost in the fire began to sink in, Emma realized that she had gained something far more precious. She had found a family, a place where she truly belonged. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be investigations into the cause of the fire, insurance claims to file, and a home to rebuild. But as Emma looked at Ethan and Lily, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. In the days and weeks that followed, as news of Emma's heroic act spread, many would comment on her bravery, her quick thinking, her selflessness. But for Emma, it had never been a question. In that moment of crisis, she had acted on the most basic of instincts, to protect those she loved. For in saving Lily and Margaret, Emma had also saved herself. She had found her purpose, her home, her family. And as she drifted off to sleep in the hospital bed, Lily's small hand still clutched in hers, Emma knew that no matter what the future held, she was exactly where she was meant to be. If this tale of bravery, family, and unexpected bonds has touched your heart, leave a comment with the number 1 to let us know you've enjoyed this story and would like to hear more like it. Your engagement fuels our passion for storytelling, and we're eager to bring you more narratives that celebrate the power of love, courage, and the families we choose. The weeks following the fire were a whirlwind of activity for the Carter family. Ethan, driven by a newfound appreciation for life's fragility, made the decision to start fresh. He found a beautiful new house, not far from their old neighborhood, and threw himself into the task of making it a home. As the dust settled and the family began to adjust to their new surroundings, Ethan felt a deep need to express his gratitude, not just to Emma, but to everyone who had supported them through the crisis. He decided to host a celebration, a way to thank those who had been there for them and to mark the beginning of this new chapter in their lives. The day of the celebration arrived bright and clear. The new Carter home was filled with the warmth of friends, family, and neighbors. The aroma of barbecue wafted from the backyard, where tables had been set up on the freshly laid lawn. Children's laughter rang out as Lily and her friends played on the new swing set, a surprise Ethan had installed just days before. Emma moved through the gathering, a soft smile on her face as she helped serve drinks and ensured everyone was comfortable. She still bore the fading marks of her heroic actions on her arms, but they were worn like badges of honor, a testament to her bravery and selflessness. As the afternoon wore on, Ethan clinked his glass, calling for everyone's attention. The chatter died down, and all eyes turned to him as he stood on the back porch, Emma and Lily by his side. "Friends, family, neighbors," Ethan began, his voice carrying across the yard. "Thank you all for being here today. We've gathered not just to celebrate our new home, but to express our deepest gratitude to each and every one of you who stood by us during the darkest hours of our lives." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces before him. Faces that had offered comfort, support, and kindness when they needed it most. Your generosity, your compassion, your unwavering support, it has meant more to us than words can express. You've shown us the true meaning of community, and we are forever grateful. Ethan then turned to Emma, who stood quietly beside him, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "But there's one person in particular to whom we owe a debt that can never be repaid." He gently took Emma's hand, guiding her forward. Emma came into our lives as Lily's nanny, but on the day of the fire, she became so much more. Without a thought for her own safety, Emma risked everything to save my daughter's life. A hush fell over the gathering as Ethan continued, his voice thick with emotion. "Emma, what you did that day, there are no words adequate to express my gratitude. You didn't just save Lily's life. You saved our family. You gave us a future." Emma's eyes glistened with unshed tears as Ethan spoke, the depth of his gratitude overwhelming her. Lily, sensing the emotion of the moment, slipped a small hand into Emma's, offering silent support. "But your bravery that day was just a culmination of something that had been growing since you first came into our lives," Ethan went on. "Your kindness, your strength, your unwavering dedication to Lily's happiness and well-being. You've brought light back into our home in ways I never thought possible." He turned to address the gathered crowd once more. "Today, I want to publicly acknowledge what I think we've all come to realize. Emma is no longer just Lily's nanny, no longer just an employee. She has become an integral part of our family." A murmur of approval rippled through the audience. Margaret, standing near the front, nodded emphatically, tears streaming down her cheeks. Ethan smiled, squeezing Emma's hand. "Emma, if you'll accept, I'd like to formally welcome you into our family, not as an employee, not even as a friend, but as a daughter. You filled a void in our lives that we didn't even know existed, and we can't imagine our family without you." Emma's composure finally broke, tears spilling down her cheeks as she nodded, unable to speak. Lily threw her arms around Emma's waist, hugging her tightly. "To Emma," Ethan raised his glass, his voice ringing out clear and strong, "our guardian angel, our hero, and now, officially, a member of the Carter family." The gathering erupted in cheers and applause. Friends and neighbors surged forward, offering hugs and congratulations. Emma found herself enveloped in a whirlwind of embraces, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. As the celebration continued into the evening, Emma found a quiet moment to slip away. She stood on the edge of the backyard, gazing up at the stars that were just beginning to appear in the twilight sky. The events of the day washed over her, and she felt a profound sense of peace settle in her heart. For so long, she had been alone in the world, struggling to find her place to belong. She had dreamed of a family, of a home, but had never truly believed it could be a reality for her. Now, standing here in this backyard, surrounded by people who had accepted her, who had embraced her as one of their own, Emma realized that her dream had come true in the most unexpected way. She thought back to that night when she had first met Ethan, how she had acted on instinct to help a stranger in need. She could never have imagined where that simple act would lead, to a job, to a home, and now to a family. Emma, Lily's voice broke through her reverie. The little girl approached, holding out a plate. "I saved you some cake. Are you okay?" Emma smiled, kneeling down to Lily's level. "I'm more than okay, sweetheart. I'm happy, happier than I've ever been." Lily beamed, setting the cake aside to throw her arms around Emma's neck. "I'm happy, too. I always wanted a big sister, and now I have one." As Emma hugged Lily back, she saw Ethan approaching, a soft smile on his face. He joined them, wrapping his arms around both of them in a warm embrace. "Everything all right?" he asked gently. Emma nodded, her heart full to bursting. "Everything's perfect. I never thought I'd have this. A family, a home, people who care about me. It's more than I ever dared to hope for." Ethan pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "You're stuck with us now, kiddo. No returns or exchanges." Emma laughed, the sound full of joy and belonging. As they stood there, the three of them wrapped in a tight embrace, Emma knew that she had finally found her place in the world. She was no longer alone, no longer struggling to survive day by day. She was home, surrounded by love, accepted for who she was, and embraced as family. The stars twinkled overhead, bearing witness to this new beginning. For Emma, for Ethan, for Lily, and for all those who had gathered to celebrate with them, it was more than just a new chapter. It was the start of a beautiful new story, one filled with love, hope, and the unbreakable bonds of family. As the weeks turned into months and the seasons changed, the Carter household settled into a new rhythm of life. The story of Emma's journey from a struggling orphan to a beloved member of their family became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of kindness. Emma often found herself reflecting on the incredible path that had led her to this point. She remembered the cold nights spent alone, the constant struggle to make ends meet, the fear and uncertainty that had been her constant companions for so long. Those memories now seemed like distant echoes from another life, fading in the warmth of her new reality. One crisp autumn afternoon, as golden leaves drifted lazily from the trees lining their street, Emma sat on the porch swing of their new home. She watched as Lily, bundled up in a colorful scarf, gleefully jumped into piles of leaves in the front yard. The sound of the little girl's laughter carried on the breeze, a joyful melody that never failed to warm Emma's heart. Ethan emerged from the house, carrying 2 steaming mugs of hot chocolate. He handed one to Emma before settling beside her on the swing, their shoulders touching comfortably. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked, noticing the contemplative look on Emma's face. Emma smiled, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. "I was just thinking about how much has changed. A year ago, I never could have imagined this life." Ethan nodded, his gaze softening as he watched Lily play. "Life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? I never imagined I'd find someone who could bring such light back into our lives after Claire passed." Emma leaned into him slightly, drawing comfort from his presence. "I never knew what it meant to truly belong somewhere, to have a family. You and Lily, you've given me that gift." As they sat in comfortable silence, Emma marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. Her act of courage on that fateful night, intervening to save Ethan from muggers, had been the catalyst for a series of events that had changed all their lives forever. But it wasn't just that one act of bravery that had led to this new life. It was a daily act of kindness, the unwavering dedication to Lily's well-being, the trust she had built with Ethan, and the respect they had cultivated for one another. Each small moment, each shared laugh, each challenge faced together, had woven the tapestry of their new family. Emma's thoughts drifted to the fire that had nearly taken everything from them. In the face of that terror, she had found a strength she never knew she possessed. The memory of climbing down that tree, Lily clutched tightly in her arms, still sent a shiver down her spine. But it had also cemented her place in this family, proving beyond any doubt that her love for them knew no bounds. "Emma, Daddy, come play with me." Lily's excited voice broke through their reverie. She stood in the middle of the yard, arms outstretched, cheeks flushed with excitement. Ethan chuckled, setting his mug aside. "What do you say? Shall we join the leaf-jumping extravaganza?" Emma grinned, already rising to her feet. "Race you there." As they ran toward Lily, leaves crunching beneath their feet, Emma felt a surge of pure joy. This was what family meant. Shared moments of simple happiness, the freedom to be silly together, the knowledge that you were loved and accepted completely. Later that evening, as they sat around the dinner table, the conversation flowed easily. Lily regaled them with tales from school, her animated gestures sending a fork flying at one point, which only resulted in peals of laughter from all three of them. As Emma helped clear the dishes, she caught sight of a family photo on the wall, a new addition taken just a few weeks ago. In it, Ethan stood with his arm around Emma, while Lily beamed from her perch on Emma's hip. The love and happiness radiating from that image were palpable. It struck Emma then, the full weight of the journey she had undergone. From an orphan with no support, constantly fighting just to survive, she had become an integral part of this loving family. The transformation wasn't just in her circumstances, but in herself. She had found a strength and resilience she never knew she possessed, discovered the courage to open her heart to love and trust, and learned the profound impact that kindness, both given and received, could have on a life. The bond between Ethan, Lily, and Emma was one forged through shared experiences, built on a foundation of trust, respect, and immense gratitude. It was a connection that went beyond traditional definitions of family, proving that love and belonging could be found in the most unexpected places. As they settled in the living room for their nightly routine of reading a story together, Emma felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. Lily snuggled up against her side, while Ethan sat close, his arm draped comfortably across the back of the couch. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of their love, Emma knew with absolute certainty that she was home. The struggles of her past had led her to this beautiful present, and the future stretched out before them, full of hope and promise. Their story was one of resilience in the face of adversity, of courage to take chances on love, and of the incredible power of kindness to transform lives. It was a testament to the fact that family could be found and created, that second chances were possible, and that love, in all its forms, had the power to heal and unite. As Ethan began to read, his voice soft and soothing, Emma closed her eyes for a moment, savoring the simple perfection of this moment. She sent a silent thank you to the universe for guiding her to this place, to these people who had become her world. The story of Ethan, Lily, and Emma was far from over. There would be more challenges to face, more joys to celebrate, more memories to create. But whatever the future held, they would face it together as a family bound by love, strengthened by trust, and grateful for the twist of fate that had brought them together. In the warmth of their home, surrounded by love and laughter, they had found their happy ending, or rather, their happy beginning. For every end is just the start of a new chapter, and for the Carter family, the best was yet to come.